Welcome to the We Are Takoma show. Today with us is Karen MacPherson. She's the Children and Teen Services Coordinator for the Takoma Park Maryland Library. Thank you for being with us, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Karen, I know that, and I imagine that since you were a little girl, you always wanted to be a librarian.
Yes.
Was that your dream?
Yes, yes. I had two dreams, which is interesting. I wanted to be a newspaper reporter or a librarian.
Wow.
So, as time went on, the newspaper reporter one became stronger because it was the time of Watergate when I was in college. And so everybody wanted to be a reporter back then. So I did get my master's in journalism after graduating from college, and I worked as a reporter for 30 years.
Are you telling me that now everybody wants to be a reporter again?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's a little harder these days. Forget it.
Get the president.
Yes, and also, I worked for a wire service for several years, and it was like a deadline every minute. Now it's like a deadline every millisecond. I mean, it's so even faster than it was back then. But there came a time back in after September 11th where I started thinking about do I really want to continue to do journalism? It wasn't very fulfilling. I also felt like there's this whole thing in journalism where you should run towards danger, and I felt I didn't want to do that anymore. I had kids of my own, and I didn't really want to do that. So I started to think, well, maybe this is the time to think about being a librarian. To be a librarian, however, you have to have a master's degree in library science. So I had to go back to school. And I did that while I was a newspaper reporter still, raising my kids. My husband also a newspaper reporter. It was a crazy time. It took me 5.5 years. So, but I graduated, and then I got this wonderful job.
And to be a children librarian or teen, you have to be there with illustrations, immersed in illustration. It's your natural habitat,
Right,
So, did you ever do illustrations, or you knew about?
No, it's interesting because I'm going to take your question in like a couple parts. One is that as a librarian, what I do in my job is I do a lot of publicity. So I do a lot of flyers and posters and stuff. I've had to learn a little bit of graphic design, and there actually are courses for librarians to sort of learn how to do that so that kind of thing. But then I guess I've always been a children's book lover, and I've always been a lover of picture books. And so I knew a lot about the history of picture books and picture books in general. When I served on the 2016 Caldecott Committee, I did have to really learn even more. Because you're really focused in on illustrations in the books, and you're trying to find the most distinguished picture book for children ages birth through 14. That's what the Caldecott Award is given for. So,
can you go a little bit more in depth with the Caldecott Award?
Sure. Yes, the two oldest awards for children's books in the United States are the Newbery Medal and the Caldecott Medal. The Newbery Medal is older. It's given to the most distinguished book for children, and it's focused on text. And again, it's for ages birth through 14. So that's a huge range.
Yes.
The Caldecott is given for, as I said, for the best illustrations, basically, is what we're looking at. And those two awards it really is like the Academy Awards. And I was just at the Library Association's Midwinter Conference in Denver, where they announced the awards for this year. And it was in a room of, several hundred librarians, and everybody was all excited. It's just like the Oscars, except at 8 in the morning.
So the Oscars with librarians.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly, and the Caldecott's announced, it's about an hour long, because there's a lot of different awards that are given out. And the Caldecott is announced next to last, the Newbery's announced last because it's the oldest. And when I looked up the winner of the Caldecott this year, Wolf in the Snow, it's a wonderful picture book written and illustrated by Matthew Cordell. When I looked up at the Amazon sales rank just after they announced that it won, it was 29,000 something or other, and at the end of the day it was in the top 25. And that was similar for the Newbery book as well. So there's a power of these awards.
And how can it came to you to be one in the panel?
To be on the Caldecott Committee, because it's like a bucket list thing. You only usually just get to do it once. Sometimes it'd be rare to get to do it again. I was elected, so half of the committee is elected and half of the committee is appointed, and the chair is appointed as 15 members. And so I was asked to run for it, and I ran for it and got elected. started.
And you have brought some of the winners to the library. Takoma
Yes,
Park
in
Media
fact,
Library.
that's right. We had my winner actually was Sophie Blackall. She won the 2016 Caldecott for Finding Winnie.
We had a chance to interview her.
Yes, exactly. So that's a wonderful thing to have her come. And we've had John Klassen come. John Klassen is a Caldecott medalist, so illustrator. And then we've had a couple of Newbery winners come as well. Catherine Applegate is one of them. Most recently, she came for Wish Tree. So, and Kate DiCamillo was another. We've had, because of our connection with Politics and Prose, a good way to bring these people to Takoma Park.
And before we go into the connection with Politics and
Yes.
Prose, what are the things that you're looking in the illustration when you're judging that?
Oh boy, there's so much. I'll tell you, you look, there's nothing in a picture book that is there by chance. Nothing. So from the cover to what they call the end papers, which is like when you open up the cover, there's there's papers right there before you get to the title page.
Yeah.
The color of those end papers, whether there's illustrations on them, whatever. Sometimes a story might even start there. You're looking at that. You take the cover of the book off. Sometimes the cover underneath, it's called the case cover, has a different illustration on it. We call that the undies, and there's an award for the undies, the best undies of the year. Just a sort of a joke award, but it's fun. And then you're looking to see, okay, what kind of text, font did they use for the text? Are they full page illustrations, two across like this, and that's called full bleed? Or are you looking at like little vignettes, like more, or like graphic novel panels? How is the story being told? And how does it carry you along? What does it make you feel? And it's sort of ineffable to sort of sometimes get that, but like our book, Finding Winnie, Sophie Blackall was having to tell 3 different stories within that book. So a present-day story, the story from World War I, and then a story slightly after World War I. So, and those 3 things all came together. And so it's an amazing thing that she did. So that clearly for us stood out as the most distinguished.
And how many books do you go through to judge?
Oh wow! That year we looked at hundreds. I don't know. It's amazing because you're looking at books for birth through age 14. So that includes graphic novels as well. And it also includes graphic illustrated nonfiction, like picture book biographies, that kind of thing. There's a lot. And there's some wonderful, wonderful books out there. And some books just don't, even if they're wonderful, they don't win anything. That doesn't mean they're any less wonderful. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a break.
Yes.
And after this break, we'll talk about Politics and Prose and the
Good.
relationship
Okay.
and some of the authors who come to the library.
Okay.
So we'll be right back after these messages.
Across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, helping solve child hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
Welcome back to the We Are Takoma show. We're here with Karen MacPherson, the Children and Teen Services Coordinator for the Takoma Park Maryland Library. You have amazing events that sometimes we cover in CTTV.
Yes.
You bring great authors. You mentioned the Caldecott Award winner. But many of these are in cooperation with Politics and Prose. Can you tell us about this cooperation? Who are they, for people who might not know?
Sure. Politics and Prose, I would say, is the best independent bookstore in Washington, D.C. It's been around for many, many years. And their idea is to sort of become like a community center bookstore kind of thing. They have so many events and so many authors who want to be in their store and do events that they just don't have space or time for it. So even though they have a main store in Connecticut Avenue, now they have a new store at the Wharf in D.C., and they're going to be opening another in Union Market. That's still not enough venue space for all the programs, particularly kids programs, which tend to sort of get a little lost in the mix, I think, because people are looking more for the adult authors. So we have become an alternate venue for them. And so for the past, I guess, 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, when they have a publisher who wants to do an event with an author and illustrator, they check with us and see if we are available to do that, if we are interested to do that, would it work for our library? And it has been an amazing partnership because a lot of people don't understand how it works. Basically, the publisher decides, okay, we're going to send this author on tour. And they pay to send that author on tour, and they pay for their hotel and their meals and whatever, and they tour around the country or a part of the country. So when those authors come to us through Politics and Prose, we pay nothing. And these authors and illustrators, some of them, that's how they make a living, is by charging money to schools and libraries and things for the programs they do. That's an important part of their income. We don't have to pay that because they're coming via their publisher. We could not afford to have these people come otherwise. And yet it's an incredible thing, I think, for our community that we have these folks come.
It's fantastic. Well, there are free events, and I see that you bring a lot of children authors, and the children come, they pack the auditorium.
Yes.
And I have to tell you a secret. Sometimes when we're covering them, sometimes I'm directing in the control room.
Yes.
And there's been a couple of times that I've been on the floor laughing because the author was so fun.
Yes, exactly. They generally, if they're children's authors, they're generally pretty good with kids, and they've got a sense of humor. So,
Can you mention some of the authors that have come or are going to come in the future?
Sure, yes, Well, we've had, as I said, a Newbery medalist, Kate DiCamillo, who was also a national ambassador for young people's literature. So that's a 2-year position that created by the Library of Congress. So that's a big deal position. So great that she was there. She did a wonderful program. And she surprised me by saying 5 minutes before we were going to do the program that she wanted me to sit on the stage with her and interview her. I had no clue that was going to happen, but it was okay. It was fine. I know her work very well. Another one was Catherine Applegate, who just came in the fall for her book Wish Tree. And we've had Caldecott medalists as well, John Klassen, who came for, he won for, it's one of the most popular Caldecotts, I think, let's see, This Is Not My Hat is the name of his book. And he came a couple times, and we've had also Sophie Blackall, who was my Caldecott medalist. Then we have, there's somebody who's come several times who was written Caldecott honor books with John Klassen, Mac Barnett. And he's come a number of times, and we've had a lot of graphic novelists who come as well. We just had Nidhi Chinani, who came for her new book Pashmina, which was a great. We packed people were really interested in her book, so we had a great group. So in this coming up, we just had a husband wife couple, James Ransom and Lisa Klein Ransom, for their picture book biography of Before She Was Harriet, which actually won a Coretta Scott King Illustrator Award. There's something called Children's Book Week that happens every year. This year is April 30th through May 6th. And on April 30th, we are having an event with an author, Samantha Berger, and illustrator Mike Curado for a picture book they've done together called What If? So we're going to have that event on Children's Book Week, and then at the other end, Friday, May 4th, in here, we're going to have Caldecott medalist Rebecca Stead and another author, Wendy Mass, talking about their new book called Bob, which is a novel. So we are so lucky to celebrate Children's Book Week this way. So,
you have a lot of events going there.
Right.
And also you have collaborated with the Friends of the Takoma Park Maryland Library. You have They support the
Yes.
library.
Oh, they do a ton for us. They really do. We have Spanish Circle Time every week. It is hugely popular, and so they pay for Senora Jeza to be there. And in fact, she's now gone from doing one program on Thursday mornings to two because it's so popular. And they started an outreach with her, sort of Takoma near New Hampshire Avenue, an office there, where she is going to be doing Spanish Circle Time there once a month. So she did her first one in February. So yes, and they pay for Madame Marie, who does our French Circle Time. They buy multiple copies of board books that we use in our early literacy programs on Wednesday mornings. So we do. We couldn't do it without our friends. They pay for the Caldecott Club lemonade and cookies every month. So yeah.
See, because we'll talk about the programs in a few minutes, but when we go to these programs, you have a lot of kids there, so the space is limited now.
Yeah.
So hopefully with the renovation of the library,
Yes.
you'll have a little more space,
Yes.
accommodate more people.
Exactly. Right now people are like really squished in, and we have to, every time we have a program, whatever it is, we have to move the shelves that are movable and tables and chairs out of the way and then move them all back. So we do that every day, and so with a renovated library, we would have a program room. We wouldn't have to do that, so.
Okay, so when I come back, I'm talking about the great programs that you do at the Takoma Park Maryland Library. We're here with Karen MacPherson, the Children and Teen Services Coordinator for the Takoma Park Maryland Library. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to the We Are Takoma show. And Karen, tell us a little bit about the programs that you have for children. Start with the children.
Sure. So for the very youngest children, we have a number of what we call early literacy programs. Basically, we know now with the brain research that babies can start developing the skills they need to learn to read later on. So we have programs for that. Circle Time is all based on a program called Every Child Ready to Read that the American Library Association put together. So we use different kinds of rhymes and songs and whatever, and it's all getting children ready to read. So that's, birth through age 5, but it's usually, about birth through age 3 or 4, because by 5 kids are in school. So that's on Tuesday mornings. I do that twice. Then there's Spanish Circle Time on Thursdays, and that's twice with Senora Jeza. Once a month we have French Circle Time. We're one of the only libraries in the area that does a French Circle Time. Yeah. So it's free. You don't have to pay the Alliance Française for it. We do...
all these programs are free.
They're all free. Everything is free. Library programs are always free. Wednesday mornings we have a slot from 11 to 11:30 on Wednesday mornings before we open. And so for a number of years now we've done what we call early literacy programs there that are, we do keep small, like Circle Time, Spanish Circle Time, French Circle Time, all those are just anybody who comes we just take them in. Does it, so sometimes it's a big crowd. For these early literacy programs on Wednesday mornings, we have registration. So we try to keep it between 18 to 20 little ones and their grown-ups. And so the 1 month we do babies, so up through 12 months. The next month in that Wednesday morning slot, we do wonderful ones, through 24 months. And then the following month, it's the twosies through 36 months. And then we start again with the babies. So it's like a cycle of early literacy programs. Then my assistant, Katie Nofi, also does bedtime stories and a craft once a month, which is a great program. And then on Sundays, once a month, she does a Lego.
What's a good day?
So,
is it always?
The bedtime stories and a craft is usually on a Thursday, the first Thursday of the month. Right. And then she does Lego once a month, and that's usually the first Sunday of the month. And then kids art is also once a month, and that's on a Sunday, and that's usually it's like the third Sunday, depending on holidays. That's the thing. So we do those. She also does a fair amount of outreach. We have preschools coming in. I do often with Dave, Dave Burbank, who's our library associate, he's a graphic novel expert and our staff artist. We do programs for the schools. We do a lot of programs for Takoma Park Elementary, which is K to 2, and Piney Branch Elementary, which is grades 3, 4, and 5. So we have kids coming in almost on a weekly basis, classes of kids, and we're sort of doing a program that the teachers say, well, this would be great if we work with our language arts unit, whatever. So we do those. So that's those are sort of extra programs that we do. We also have special programs. Katie's going to be doing a Where the Wild Things Are party based on the book, which is probably one of the most popular Caldecott Medal winning books. And we're going to be doing a reader's theater sometime in the spring, which is basically kids, we read a book, we turn it into a play real fast, and then kids stand up and they read their parts, which is a lot of fun. So it's good for developing reading skills, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we have our Caldecott Club, which is once a month. That we try to sort of predict the Caldecott winner by reading a lot of the books over the months. And then Dave Burbank does a comics jam program once a month, which is usually the second Tuesday afternoon of the month. He also does most Fridays, he does a draw with Dave. It's also called Scribbler's Cabal. And then he's just started an alternative games once a month. So, which is at the last Saturday or Sunday of the month. So that's Dungeons and Dragons and card games and things.
To play that. Yes.
So, and that's been popular.
So these for children, also for teens. Do you have something specific for teens?
Yes, more for teens. What we have student service learning opportunities for them. So we have kids who come in and write book reviews for us, which is great. So we put those on our Facebook page. We also have kids who come in and help us with shelving. So it's like volunteer opportunities for them. And then the alternative games is really geared towards older kids and teens because you really need to be at least 8 and up. But it's more middle school and high school. That's what that is geared towards. So that's one of our main programs for them. So yeah.
I think you see that you have a lot of programs for children.
Yes.
Another for teens, but those pre-teens, do they get lost in the?
It is harder to do teens because they get so busy. We did for a number of years, and I'm thinking about reviving it, a banned books club, which we won an award from the American Library Association, the Intellectual Freedom Award, for having this book club, which was the idea of a middle school student at the time. And we did that for a number of years. It was wonderful. We were reading books that other people in other places had challenged. It's not, we don't have to deal, luckily, with that here. And we were reading them, so they're some of the best books out there. The kids, gradually, it was just, they got so busy. They were high school.
I remember we covered that for CTTV, the banned book club. It was very interesting.
Right. But I'm hoping that I'm going to start reviving it, maybe start with younger kids, like in sort of late elementary, like so 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then see if we can sort of keep moving it on up and keep going with it with a group of kids.
Is there a focus now for what to teach in the books and writing? What are the going to the children? What are the topics?
The big thing right now is diversity. Books for children and teens should be a mirror and a window. So in other words, children need to see themselves in books, and also need to see the world outside themselves in books. And for a long time, and it's still unfortunately the case, but it's getting slightly better, basically it's a white default. Everybody in books is white. It's a big white world, and in the picture books and novels for kids and teens, that is definitely changing. Over the past 3 years, there has been a huge push, and I think finally it's going to continue. This has been an effort for decades, and it's caught fire and then stopped, and caught fire then stopped, but I think this time it's here to stay. The winners of the awards this year are incredibly diverse, and basically diversity was rewarded as the most distinguished books that were given awards, and I think it's wonderful. I really do. So.
And just to say goodbye,
yes.
Do you have any program that you want to put that is in your mind that I hope I could do this program, but for lack of funds, of time, or something, you haven't been able?
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to bring back the Banned Books Club. I think that would be a really fun thing to do, and it is a question of time because we do a lot of programs. So we are really a program-heavy library, which is great. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we do a huge number of programs for our size.
So maybe now with the new Youth Council, they can take the lead and promote it again.
That's right. Well, I definitely should talk with them. Yeah.
Okay, Karen, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for bringing all this information from the Takoma Park Maryland Library. And thank you, everybody, for being with us, and see you next time in the We Are Takoma show.